Hi, this is Paul Jacobs from Jump Advisory Group, and why not join me in our latest Jump Advisory podcast, Recruitment Leaders Unlocked, and listen to my guest, Leo Hewett of Core3, because I think you'll find it highly illuminating to listen to a guy that literally 3 years ago didn't own a business, but 3 years on has grown a really remarkable new finance recruitment organisation, driven by his vision for what the business should represent and the three core charities that he supports, how he's recruited some amazing people in his business. They were attracted to working for him. 80% of his staff had joined because they wanted to be a part of his mission and his values, and really the lessons he's learned in these last 3 years to enable him to get from a zero position to where he is today. So why not tune into our podcast and take maybe 45 minutes of your time to listen to somebody I think is hugely inspiring. So looking forward to having you join us very soon. And hello, and welcome to episode 2 of Recruitment Leaders, and there's a full stop here, Unlocked, no less, with me, Paul Jacobs of Jump Advisory Group. In this episode, my guest is the rather wonderful Leo Hewett, the owner and co-founder, founder I should say, not co-founder, what am I saying? The owner and founder of Core3. And I'm sure you're going to explain this in a minute, Leo. I mean, an award-winning business, and I've known you since before the startup, and I'll allow you to talk about the early successes you've had, but it's been really, really inspiring to see the growth of your business. And thank you so much for joining me today. I guess we need to get into this because people don't want to hear me rambling. They want to hear you talking. I guess I'm just going to ask you a couple of quick questions, and then maybe we could sort of get into the meat of your experiences of developing your new business. So perhaps you could start, if you don't mind, but just running through a little bit about who you are and what you've done and really the sort of concept of the business.
Sure. Well, first of all, thanks for having me, Paul. It's great to be here. So I'm Leo Hewett. I'm founder and MD of Core3. We've been going nearly 3 years now, 3 years in April. And yeah, my background was when I graduated, got into marketing and events, so quite different to recruitment. Actually, I avoided recruitment for as long as possible because my mum, funnily enough, had her own recruitment business for...
I know your mum, yes.
for 40 years. And I just really wanted to carve out my own path, really. So I went down the marketing route because I love sort of using that right-hand side of my brain and being creative. But I got to a point where I got as far as I could in that world and went traveling with my now wife and got back and just didn't really know what to do. So after a bit of reflection, turns out Mum and I are quite similar. So I ended up joining Michael Page at the time, and I've always specialised in finance and accounting from the start. So I was there for a brief time, sort of 9 months, and then went and joined Robert Half, where I was there for best part of a decade, and climbed the ranks up to sort of director level there.
Yep.
And ran a couple of branches and multiple lines of business, and then pandemic hit, a lot of self-reflection, a lot of thinking, what is important to me.
Yeah.
And that's really where sort of Core3 was born. And I guess in a nutshell, Core3 is a business that is very, very purpose-driven and values-led. A lot of businesses say that, but I guess what does that really mean? For us, we've hardwired social and environmental impact into our business model. So we give 3% of our revenue back to the local community and the environment, which is about 15% of our profit.
And that's amazing. That's just an amazing thing to do.
It's a big, big commitment, but for us, we decided to do it attached to revenue because we can feel it every day. So if it's a percentage of profit, it becomes an accounting exercise at the end of the year. Whereas percentage of revenue, like we can feel it with every placement. The clients get to choose which charity that goes to after every placement. The consultants can feel it. So in terms of that fulfillment day to day, you can really see that impact and measure it, not just from a pound value, but also then how many people are we supporting, how many kids are we helping, how many trees are we planting, whatever that might be.
But it's quite a sizable sum of money now, Leo, I think, that you've given to charities.
Yeah, it's quite eye-watering when you look at it, but it's about £76,000 now we've given back. We've planted over 23,000 trees. We've removed over 350 tons of carbon from the atmosphere, and this year we've supported over 6,500 kids from disadvantaged areas of Bristol.
Incredible.
So yeah, it's just really awesome just to see the vision come to life. And for us then it was natural to become a B Corp certified business because it just goes hand in hand and it holds us accountable to our purpose and make sure that we are walking the walk and not just greenwashing. So that's us in a nutshell, but we're currently sort of finance and accounting through and through. We're soon to be launching our executive search offering. We started off in Bristol and we've now got offices in London.
Yeah, amazing.
Which are actually opening today. So they've got the paintbrushes out and they're getting it ready for opening next week. So yeah, really exciting.
It's just incredible. I mean, you've been very modest. Tell us a bit about the awards that you've won in less than 3 years.
Yeah, so that's been quite unreal, really, because if you think you're doing the right thing and you're growing the right way, and it's great. But sometimes you doubt yourself and you think, is it as good as we think it is? Yeah. But then to have that sort of external recognition, so it's just been great to see. And it all started with the REC Awards, actually, in our sort of just after our first year of trading. We went there and, rubbing shoulders with some incredible businesses and thinking, we've got no chance. We've got no chance here. And then they read out our name for Startup of the Year, which was just insane for, across the whole of the UK, little old Core3. And then, year two,
we'll come back to that.
Yeah. Year two, we then won Business of the Year for the Business Leader Awards, which is again, so that next level up from Startup of the Year. And we've won a few environmental awards, like the Ecology Award as well, which is a silver recognition. We've had a few highly commended. We had the REC we had for Community Impact, highly commended. Yep. The Global Recruiter Awards we had highly commended for Startup, and Bristol Life Awards we had highly commended for People Services Awards. But this year we're finalists so far for 3 awards at Bristol Life as well.
Right.
And we're going for a few others this year, so watch this space. But so far we've bagged 1 a year so far, so we're going to keep that record hopefully.
And so the tuxedo is getting quite a workout at the moment, right?
I know. I need a new one.
You need a few different styles. That's what we need for different awards. And how many staff now, Leo? How many people in the business, including the new London operation?
Yeah, so there's 11 of us at the moment. We've got quite a few outsourced staff on top of that as well. But in terms of core full-time employees, 11, 3 of which are in London.
Amazing stuff. Well, that's it. And I, as you know, just for our listeners and viewers, you and I have got to know each other pretty well over the last nearly 3 years. So I'm, to watch you come from a startup position, and we're going to talk about that now, to where you are now with all these amazing awards, and the vision that you've implanted into the business has been, for me, an inspiring experience. It's just great to see the journey you've been on, and I feel almost paternal towards you. So it's been great. I remember meeting you at one of the expos, and you saying, "I think I want to open up my own business," and wandering around the hall talking to suppliers, and here you are, nearly 3 years later, in a great place with all these awards under your belt. And really, that's the sort of discussion I wanted to have with you today, so that others could perhaps learn from this really interesting journey of yours. And I think what we really want to talk about is a startup, a sort of micro business that's really focused on pretty quick growth. And just wanted to get your sort of honest views about the sort of joys and pains that you've experienced over those years. So, I mean, I guess the first question I've got for you is sort of what common growing pains did you face as your business scaled? And how did you deal with those issues to maintain momentum, keep your business going whilst you were experiencing the pain?
Yeah, so I think to begin with, as a sole founder, a bit of loneliness, if I'm honest, Paul. Sort of like I was used to having a big team of 35 or so people at Robert Half, and I went to just being sat on my Todd in my daughter's nursery, sort of starting up, and me and Wilson, coming up with ideas for the future. But I quite quickly then decided, right, I can't do this for much longer. So I got an office space as soon as we started trading, which was just a desk in a hot desk space. And I hired 2 people straight away so that I had people to bounce off. And that was possibly one of my first mistakes, because I was just in a bit of a rush to hire, and maybe that was a vanity thing. Maybe I just needed a bit of company. And because I didn't have the brand or the track record yet, I lowered my standards quite a lot in terms of what, type of people that I would have traditionally hired. So although, they did well, they were great sort of at resourcing and finding candidates. Long term, that wasn't necessarily what we needed for the business. We need like really good 360 people. When you're starting out, you need people that can do the business development and can open doors. So that didn't quite work out. But then from there, I learned that lesson quite quickly and just got back to my usual standards of hiring, and actually backing myself a little bit and saying, hang on, well, although the brand isn't known and we've got a blank sheet of paper with nothing on the database, we're building something pretty cool here. So we need to get some really good people on board. And we managed to get quite lucky then with a few really, really good hires. A lot of it came from the work we were doing with personal brand and LinkedIn and getting ourselves out there and becoming much more of a known entity than we ever would have without that. But then I guess as you scale in a small business, you go from 1 to 2 to 3. And then eventually when we got to 4, we had our own private office for the first time rather than hot desks.
Yes.
And you're sort of growing. It was a good market then. Just the recovery bounced back from COVID, so it felt great. It felt easy, probably a bit too easy, which maybe lulled me into a false sense of security. And we really needed to sort of think about the culture and the values and what do those values actually mean, because I set them in place from the beginning. Because they're aligned with my personal values. And I thought that was important because I felt, well, if it's part of who I am, then it will be real and it'll be authentic and people will actually believe it and buy into it. But the reason why we had to really start thinking about culture and values, because when you get into those small office spaces, they're really often quite small boxy rooms. And when there's 4 of you really trying to build something from scratch, all fighting for your bread, if you like. Sometimes, there's moments where people have a bad day or things don't go their way. And, like in any recruitment business or any business, somebody comes in a bit of a mood or they're huffing and puffing. But in a small office like that, you can feel it. And that's 25% of your culture if one person comes in with that attitude. So at that point, we did a lot of self-discovery and learning around those values. What do they mean? How do they translate to day-to-day behaviors? And what is our expectation of those behaviors? So we sort of set that tone really early on. Then we got to the 6 and then the 8, and then we had an 8-person office, which still felt, quite small, with 6 or 7 people sat in there. And again, we just carried on the journey of the culture and working on it is constantly and really defining the values. And we got to a point where actually we took people out into the woods and we had 2 days digital detox, no phones, no work chat allowed, and we just really got to know each other on a much deeper level than maybe you would do in a working environment, and that just helped people understand one another. Yeah, when you have those moments where people don't see eye to eye, often it's because someone's got a demon that you don't understand, and you don't really get that person's perspective. So that really, really helped. And actually that's something now we've implemented annually. We do our Core3 retreat. And that's just about just getting to know each other and having a bit of a break from the chaos of the world.
Exercise,
which was good. So then from there, really, the culture is in a good place. Now we're in a bigger space. There's 18 desks here in Bristol at the moment. So there's a lot more breathing room, and that does make a difference. But then the continuous work on the culture and the values and what they mean has just strengthened that, because they're the pillars of everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
The values. So I'd say culture is the number one challenge as you scale, to really don't take your eye off that. It's easy to get complacent with culture.
Boom.
And then the second one, it's another C, cash flow.
Yeah, well, I thought you'd answer that question.
Yeah. So as an operator or a director in a big global business, you never experience what cash flow is, and it's very easy. And I was used to just looking at P&Ls and thinking, oh, okay, good month, profitable, this is decent, let's go.
Yeah.
And as a business owner, if you don't keep an eye on cash flow, you're dead. That's not, the business won't survive. So we had a few hairy moments where we heavied up people, and we got some really good, really experienced people on board, which don't come cheap. Our average tenure in the business now over 8 years per head. So it's an experienced team. But average salaries are high as a result of that. And as you know, or anyone knows, it can take 6 months to get.
There's a bedding in period, isn't there?
Yeah, to get any sort of ROI on investment of people. So we heavied up, and then the market squeezed, and then we're like, oh, okay, so this is what cash flow means. So there were some squeaky bum times where I was literally looking at the bank thinking, okay, if that client doesn't pay, I might not make payroll tomorrow. Yeah. And luckily, thank God, we got through it. Didn't have to borrow any more money. Yeah. Didn't have to let anybody go. We're through the other side of that, and in the healthiest financial position we've ever been in now, which feels nice, but it's been a massive learning for me. Yeah. And I think also for me, like the growth thing, you say rapid growth. I don't think we've actually grown as fast as we could, but that's been intentional. Like we're not going to grow at the expense of people. No. And I think is making sure that the people are supported. We've got the right infrastructure. We've started out by really building a leadership team that then can scale from there. And I think I've learned that the sort of headcount ideology is vanity quite often. I was thinking, right, what is the plan for the future? Where do we want to be? What do we want to be known for? And trying to build on a solid foundation rather than just hiring for hiring's sake, because then that affects your culture, it affects your cash flow, it sort of affects your own mental health as well.
The other point from my own experience of opening businesses, as you know, my background, I went through a period of opening 60-odd offices, and in a period of about 3 years. Very often the consultants that you start with are not the people that you carry forward. You're right. There's a point where you literally need people when you start, and there are various reasons why that's apparent. But then, a year down the line, it's not unusual to see that there's been quite a churn, and you need a different mindset, different attitude. It's because, setting something up, as you've experienced from scratch, takes a lot of effort. There's a huge amount of business development involved. You mentioned 360 degrees. You know, people can't hide. There needs to be a bit of everything going on. And very often the people you start with perhaps don't adapt to a startup as well as they might do. And then you find, as you say, when you get some traction and you get some money coming in, then you shift your priorities. And in your case, as you've said, you've been able to attract very successfully some highly experienced people that are making a big difference now. Can I just ask you, when you balance, or how do you balance, I guess the word I want to sort of phrase I want to use, how do you balance immediate business needs with the long-term vision then when you're planning for growth? What do you do about that?
A wise man once told me, how do you eat an elephant? It's piece by piece. So I think it's like start with the elephant and set the vision. And that was really important from the start, is thinking, you know, set the 5-year vision. What do we want it to be?
Yep.
From a revenue perspective, from a people perspective, from a impact perspective, and then work backwards. So I designed an org chart of what the team would look like in 5 years based on that revenue, and then worked backwards in terms of, okay, how do we need to break that down annually? And what does that look like as the team evolves? And actually that was a really useful exercise, not just for business planning, but for talent attraction. Yeah. Because then I had it all mapped out. When I was interviewing people, I was like, well, this is where we're going to be in 5 years.
That's the vision. That's where we're heading, yeah.
There's going to be 3 director roles, 6 manager roles, various principals, et cetera, So they could literally visualize where their progression paths would be.
Super important. And you create that excitement and almost you get zealots working for your business because they can see the opportunity for the business and for themselves, of course.
Yeah. And then you take that and then you've got your annual plan for the year ahead. And now we sort of break it down into quarterly sprints. So we use OKRs, which are quite a different way of looking at KPIs, which is really inclusive. Everybody gets input into the strategy of how we're going to achieve our goals, top down and bottom up, and everybody can see how, what their contribution is to the overall company goals. Break that down to a team level, what their part of the play is in that, and then break that down further into the individuals and what they're going to achieve this quarter through their OKRs and goals. So we work in that way, and that's working really well at the moment. It's really visual. We talk about it all the time, and that just keeps us focused in the short term whilst we've still got our eyes on the long-term vision.
And what just for everybody's benefit, Leo, not everybody knows what an OKR is. What does it stand for?
Objections and key results. So you've got your objection, which might be, objective, not objection. Objective and key results. So you've got your objective. So that might be, right, we want to get to a team of 15 people by the end of the year. Yeah. And then the key results are, what are the 3 things that we need to do in order to achieve that goal? So that's much more trackable, measurable, time-bound. It's more like a SMART goals. Yes. That then you break that down then in a quarterly basis. What do we need to do each quarter in order to do that? So it might be, if it's a hiring goal, then we might part of that might be defining our employer brand proposition. It might be posting more content to attract more talent. It might be our interview process, our talent attraction strategy. So you can really get into the granular of what that goal is. So it makes it much more accountable.
Yes. So I mean, it's a different way, as you say, of looking at it. And I know you shared that with me. And certainly something that other people listening here would probably want to explore. And it's giving people, as you said, an accountability. They are agreeing to doing certain things and they own it in a sense.
Yeah, and it's tailored to them and their ability to some degree. It's not one size fits all, which a lot of people like because they're part of crafting those goals. They do have to be aspirational, but it's not the same for everyone. And some people here have, they might have 3 OKRs for the quarter, and one of those OKRs might be volunteering and social impact and getting involved with the community. Yeah. They've got a goal of, I want to do 20 hours this quarter of giving back.
Yes.
And then others are more purely based on performance and customer service and what they care more about. So it's quite a useful way of helping the whole business buy into the overall company objectives.
And it's very clear that, as you said right at the beginning of this discussion, that you had right from the start a very clear understanding of what you wanted from your business, the values, the behaviors, your mission, the vision of the company. And as you said, it's about instilling that information and that excitement into the people that join you. And in fact, as you said, that's one of the major reasons why people have been attracted to the business. But then, as you've also said, the strategy interweaves with the daily stuff, getting interviews arranged and the CVs out and all that lovely stuff that we're all accustomed to.
Yeah, and we don't, the sort of KPIs feed into the OKRs, if you like. So we don't ignore the day-to-day metrics that we use to measure success. I like to look at KPIs more as sort of outputs, and I like to tailor them with ratios so that it's a bit more meaningful rather than just say have 50 conversations a week. It's all, well, based on your ability and your conversion rates, you might not need to do 50 in order to get the OKRs you're trying to achieve.
So there's as you know, and I think this is really important for people that are kind of listening to this, that the good results that you've been experiencing, your growth and development, is no accident. It's to do with all of the things you talked around the culture and the strategies, but equally important is that there are processes and patterns to what you do on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. People don't just turn up and just turn on the lights and what's coming next. There's an absolute discipline to what you're doing. And I think with all great businesses, whether it's a brand new startup, now in your case, not a startup anymore, but a growth business, even and up to the large corporations where you dig slightly under the surface, you find things are quite disciplined in despite the outward appearance of the organization, people have a certain pattern that they adhere to.
Yeah, and they're not always. It wasn't always that way. Like I said at the start, it was almost too easy. We were living off charm and good skill, I guess, with the team that we had, and we were also in a very good market. So we got by, and for the first year, I didn't look at KPIs, which was pretty stupid. And we didn't even have OKRs in place, and it doesn't come naturally to me to look at KPIs and to sort of measure that, because I'm not a micromanager in terms of my style. But as a business owner, I very quickly learned that's really important. Actually, if you don't measure those things, you're actually letting your people down, because you can't find where the gaps are. You can't see where they need extra development or training. If their ratios are suffering, for example, then you can see, okay, well, this is because you need some extra help with your elevator pitch, or you need help with your client meeting formula. Whatever it might be.
It's not a club to beat people with, as you've said. It's about helping them to succeed and reach their target levels and increase their income and all those lovely things. So what advice would you give to recruitment leaders about building and retaining a high-performance team during rapid expansion?
I think for us, the employer brand has been the biggest thing in terms of talent attraction. So, and most of that has come from my own personal brand efforts on LinkedIn, posting regular content, connecting with people that I want to see that content, whether it is future employees or future clients, and it just humanizes it. They can see, like, behind the brand, the people that are there, and it's real. It's it's genuine, and if they like what they see, then often they reach out, or when we approach them, they know who we are, and it's a lot warmer than a cold in-mail on Recruiter saying fancy a job. So actually, more than 80% of the people that we've got in the team at the moment approached us, which just is unheard of. Like, I never had that where I was before. It was a battle to get any decent recruiters on board, let alone with any experience. So that's been a big thing. And I think our purpose is something that really stands out as well in the recruitment market, and it has been quite a breath of fresh air to people coming in and seeing how we operate, and it is different. Like we want to do the right thing and treat people as they should be treated, and put people over profit and all those things. So it does once they get in, and the purpose might attract them as well. But
Yes.
once they're in, then they can feel it is real and the culture is different. And I had someone on the team that joined from a big corporate 8 years, came in and was like, "This doesn't feel like recruitment anymore. It's weird." I'm like, "Well, we are still doing recruitment, but it's not like the sort of soulless feeling that sometimes you can get with certain businesses. Definitely not all, but I think it's a combination of those two things: is your employer brand or your personal brand, and your purpose, and what gives people fulfillment day to day."
That's brilliant advice. And, we often in these sort of broadcasts talk about EVP, employer value proposition, how important it is that the outside looking in as the public or as a client or whatever, the experience of working in your business needs to be exactly the same as what it looks like when you look at the glossy brochure. And you've clearly succeeded in doing that. And as you say, 80% of the people have actually approached you, which I think speaks volumes for the vision that you've created as the owner. And it wasn't an accident, as we said earlier. This was something you felt very strongly about, and you've stayed very close and tight to your beliefs. You haven't deviated in any way, shape or form. And I think, as you said a moment ago, it's also been one of the big drivers for the success that you've experienced. But I wanted to also ask you about technology. We constantly talk about tech now in our industry, but of course it's all pervading. It's around us in every walk of our lives. I lose track of the amount of questions I get on a weekly basis about what tech should I get for my business. So from your perspective, as a startup, and now nearly 3 years in, what role has sort of technology or innovation played in your growth? And how did you decide what to spend and when to spend it and so forth over the last few years?
Yeah, so that's a big question, and I'm a massive tech nerd, so I can speak about this until the cows come home. But to begin with, I knew the importance of trying to create seamless experience for our consultants and trying to remove as much admin and nitty-gritty as possible. I don't want systems that are too clicky. I don't want people to have to go outside of the CRM to do other things using different tools or different software. So I spent 2 days, and I'd advise anyone starting up to do this, is go to the Recruitment Expo in London. I think they also have one in Birmingham. I spent 2 days walking the floors, speaking to all of the tech providers and getting pitched at and shown demos back to back, which was exhausting. But it enabled me to sort of handpick the software that was best for us, and then just make sure that when you start with a CRM first, and when you're picking the CRM, think how good are the integrations and the APIs to other softwares? How well does it speak to other ones? Which we did, and then every time I'm considering software, I only buy stuff that integrates with Vincherry, which is with our CRM. Bullhorn is another one that's very good with integrations as well, as far as I've heard, and Job Adder is also another good one.
And there are other great CRMs out there.
There are very many out there, yeah. So you got to choose what's right for you and your processes. There's no one best fit. So you've got to think about the integration. So then when I'm shopping for new software, I'm shopping in the integrations marketplace, not outside of that. So that then from a user experience perspective, for the consultants, it's all in Vincherry. They don't have to leave to go and post a job or, sift their applications or parse CVs. It's like, it's all in one place. Even the phone system, it's all inside. So that's important. And then obviously data integrity goes without saying, but I don't want to bore everyone with that. But then with the future, we're going through a bit of a transformation period at the moment where I'm on a mission to become an AI wizard for this year. So
I need one of those. I'll be coming to some advice very shortly.
Yeah, so I am quite often distracted by shiny objects. So I have to rein myself in a bit because there's loads of exciting stuff out there. And if you start buying this, that, and the other, then it's £20 a month per user here, 50 there, 70 there. And you've got to be really careful with that, especially in the early days, because you can get tied in for long periods of time. And I've been quite good at not, taking that temptation. I've only selected the ones that actually I know will prove ROI by saving our consultants time. Is the biggest measure for me. Like if that £50 a month is going to save that consultant X number of hours per week or per month, then it pays for it, because then they can pick up more business. They can spend more time on the phone or in front of clients and candidates. That's the way I sort of look at it. But with the AI journey, like the fundamental thing first is look at what you've got, because your CRM will do a lot more than you're probably using it for right now. And we're the same. Like, we're probably using 50% of what Vinny can do. So first and foremost, like, maximize that before getting all this other bolt-on stuff involved. And once you've got your processes nailed, you've got to map out your workflow. So your cradle to grave process, what is it? Each step of the way, from sourcing a CV, shortlisting a CV, sending emails, all of that sort of stuff. What are the steps? What software is used? Where is a human involved? Where is a system involved? Map it out and document it. And then once you've got it documented, that's great for then onboarding, because you're like, right, here you go, follow the guide. This is our Core3 manual of how to follow our process. And you can use tools like Scribe AI, which is great for creating like video how-tos and SOPs and things like that. But once you've then got that mapped, then you can see where the opportunities for AI are. And you can design a lot of them yourself. You don't have to pay lots of money for these rec tech platforms. And I'm always cautious of rec tech, because you basically, if it's got rec in front of tech, it's 4 times the price as normal tech. So so look, there's other software out there that's not necessarily rec only, that is literally a fraction of the price. So we're sort of looking at tools at the moment like Make, which is similar to Zapier, but Make can automate processes and make systems talk to one another, when you can add in steps that ChatGPT can do to then sort of automate a lot of the manual stuff that your consultants or your compliance teams have to do currently. So there's so much interesting stuff coming down the pipeline. That's amazing. I think you've just got to be sensible first and get your process right and your CRM utilization right from the beginning. It's
interesting that you've mapped out the processes, which I think is a tremendously useful thing to do. You're shopping very carefully, and as you said, it's about looking at what is time consuming and repetitive in your business that ultimately will release your people to do the things you've engaged them to do, which is to use their human instincts, their human senses to develop relationships with clients and candidates and so forth, the things that they enjoy doing. So, and of course, and you make a great point, you've got, with the development of technology, whatever is the thing to have today is in a year's time already outdated and something better's coming down the track. So you've got to be very careful not to lock yourself into too much stuff for long-term contracts, and keep analyzing it, as you've said. What else? Is it working for us? Is it integrating properly? The thing we should say, I guess, is training people as well, making sure that everybody in the business knows how to use this stuff, because I go into businesses regularly and people talk about things they need, but actually, as you already said, it's already in, for example, the CRM. They just don't know it's there, or they've only just skated over it, or people they've brought in haven't been coached properly, so they don't use it. So easy way to waste money, but if used correctly, as you've pointed out, it's a huge saving on time. And just a quick point before we move on, but I remember somebody saying to me when ChatGPT came out and we were talking about writing posts, and I did an example with this person, and he said, I think I could write that better than ChatGPT. And I said, you probably can, but not in 3 seconds. And I think that's the great point about the tech, that it really is a huge time saver.
Yeah, definitely.
So looking back from your perspective, Leo, what one decision or mindset shift made you made the biggest impact on your ability to scale successfully? What was the one thing that kind of gave you a jolt, if you like, pushed you in the right direction?
It's a difficult one to answer. Do you mean from an internal motivation standpoint?
Yeah. I mean, from your own sort of, when you kind of went, there was a kind of light bulb moment. You thought, okay, I know what to do.
The moment I handed in my resignation. It was like, I've got no choice. This has to work. Do you know what I mean? It's like I've made such a huge leap of faith.
Yeah.
Where, I was on a really, really good package, single income household, big fat mortgage. When you make that leap, it's nerve wracking, and then it's on you then to build it. So there's no bigger motivation than that. Obviously, I've got a little girl as well, and thinking about my family's future. So that for me is one, and the other is obviously the purpose is a huge part of it. That really gets me out of bed every day and drives me and gives me that motivation beyond not letting the team down. It's like I've got a duty of care to them. I think that moment when I was worried about the payroll, that was a bit of a wake up for me. It was like, hang on, this is bigger than being a director of a recruitment business. I am responsible for the livelihoods of these people.
Yes.
So I'm not going to let them down with poor financial management.
No.
But where a lot of that cash flow issue might have come from might be then, okay, how are we developing our people? What support are we giving them? How are we measuring success? Do we need? Then that's what resulted in the OKR evolution, and really thinking about how can we make sure that these people are performing at their absolute best. So I think that's a big wake up call for me as well.
Sobering, and as you say, I think in the early days, pretty scary. And nothing really prepares you for that, does it? You want to do it, and then there are those moments when you think, what have I got myself into here? And as you said, I think it's pride. It's about a sense of huge responsibility. You've made promises to people, and you have to deliver. You expect them to deliver for you. You have to do that for them. So I suppose my final question, I think I do have one tiny question at the end, this Leo, but my final question is, what strategies have you found most effective for standing out in an increasingly competitive recruitment market? You probably, I think, already said these, but might be worth recapping.
Yeah, without repeating myself, it's definitely the personal brand thing. Posting content regularly on LinkedIn, but decent content that people want to see, and keeping it real, who you are, not corporate a spiel. It's like, let people see the human behind the brand. The purpose has been a huge part of our success, and not just from a talent attraction standpoint, but also from a customer acquisition standpoint. It builds trust instantly when we're doing the right thing. And then the third one really is our communities. So we're trying to create real value for our customers. So we've built the inner circle where we regularly host like roundtable events. We do podcasts, we do thought leadership, we do blogs to just give to our customers, so that it should just feel natural that they want to work with us because they know us and we're a sort of credible voice in the market.
Yeah, that's brilliant advice. And I tell you my opinion as well, to add to your points, because I think you're a very modest guy, is that I always feel huge passion about your business and your values, what you want to achieve for the company, for the people that work with you. And I know it's authentic. It's not something that you've put on for the sake of appearances. I felt it literally when I first met you and stood with you in one of the expos, and I could just feel it coming out of every pore of your body. This is what I believe in. This is what I want to achieve. And that's undiminished. If anything, I've seen just an increasing level of acceleration, if you like, velocity, and that passion, that belief, I think just oozes out of you. And I think when I meet other people in your business, and I had the pleasure of seeing and speaking to somebody yesterday, I get that from them too. And I think that always comes directly from the leaders, and, that passion that you feel for your company and for the people around you, I think is very evident and resonates from the people that work in your organization. And I'm certain, although I haven't spoken to your clients or candidates, that they must feel that too. So I'm just laying on all these compliments. But
thank you, mate. But I think it's great to hear that you felt it with the team though as well.
Definitely.
I've always believed that I'd much rather light a fire within someone than light a fire underneath them.
That's a good quote. I like that quote. I may use that going forward.
So yeah, trying to find their why and their purpose and what really what gets them out of bed every day, I think is important.
Absolutely. And listen, I've got one last question for you, and then I'm going to let you go off because I'm sure you've got better things to do than yak to somebody like me. But so my
absolutely
last
question not, Paul.
If you had one piece of advice to any recruitment leader, what would it be?
Ooh, good question. I think for me, and it's probably the same for anyone really, look after your health.
Yeah.
I think that I can't remember where this quote came from. It might have been Simon Sinek. He's one of my favourites.
Yes.
But if you look at your life as a table, and you've got all those things on that table, might be your family, you've got your career, you've got your business, you've got your hobbies, your interests, things you get to outside of work. All those things that you love and care about are on that table. Your health is the table. So if that table falls over, then everything on top of it falls and smashes on the floor. So it's that really taking that time to look after yourself. It's very easy to burn out. It's very easy to obsess 24/7 about your business, which I often do. But I've set really healthy boundaries so that when I'm home.
Yes.
I make sure that I go to the gym or exercise 3 times a week. I do bits of mindfulness whenever I can to calm my brain that races a million miles an hour, and try and be present when you are home with your family as well. So I've had to force habits with that because I do obsess.
Yes.
And having things like an app on my phone which at 7 o'clock it locks me out of my work apps, so I can't get into my emails or LinkedIn after 7 o'clock on my phone.
That's
if it's urgent, I can open the MacBook and go in, but I rarely do. So it just stops that habit of constantly checking and saying, I've got a job, I've got a new business in, or has someone liked my post? All those things that just, that sort of popcorn brain that we all have these days of that doomless, mindless doom scrolling. Just putting healthy habits in place, setting boundaries and looking after yourself.
Oh, that's absolutely brilliant advice. I need to take it myself, to be honest. I've not developed that level of self-discipline in all the years I've worked in the industry. I think it's superb advice. Leo, I just want to thank you enormously for joining me today on the Jump podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you and listening to your amazing journey so far. It's only 3 years. And, I wish you continuing success. I'm certain that you're going to have it, to you and your team. And let's regroup in maybe 12 months and catch up and see what that period of time has done for your business. But congratulations. It's been a fantastic journey so far. And again, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure. Cheers, Paul.
Thanks, Leo.
Take care.